we're going to have Gus and Tracy. I'd love to hear Gus's response to Tracy's question about trying to mend fences between the Clinton and the Sanders clans.
It's bad. I hear it from both sides.
And
Coming
I
from
am very
Philadelphia.
cognizant of the time, and what I just said to you is, I've wanted to present these people to you prior to our February 10th. That is why our meetings have gone longer than they normally do. And because I've doubled up, because I'm attempting to get people here, and Gus to be here now, because what I want you to do for me. This is Gus Bickford. Gus is the chair of the Mass Democratic Party, and incredibly deep in his knowledge, and we're excited to have him as our chair. And I'd like you to welcome, a Quincy welcome to Gus Bickford.
Thank you.
What I want to do, Gus, because this is so exciting for me, I got involved on the Ward 6 level back in '90 when Frank Bellotti ran. So I'd like, and when Gus and I spoke earlier today, he said, do you really need me to do that? Meaning, talk caucuses? Yeah, people know that. And I immediately said, well, yeah, we do. And then I had to catch myself because I'm living the dream of that I thought we were fading into oblivion. And unfortunately, Hillary lost. But with that, I have met so many wonderful new people in this room. So I'd like you to raise your hand who is new to this committee and who has never participated in a caucus or only been to one before, so Gus can see the resurgence at our level of the people who are new to this committee.
That's great. That's terrific.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
I have been reborn. So,
And thank you. And actually, this is going to be a conversation because I'm going to be speaking long. I will say one of the greatest things for me in the last couple of months, the last 2 months or whatever, is just being able to participate in meetings like this with the candidates where, I mean, they're actually giving you the spiel because people are saying, what are the Democrats doing? And we've got our candidates talking about what the Democratic candidates, what we need, the Democratic values we need in the corner office and the Lieutenant Governor's office. So the only thing that I'll add to what Quentin, the direction that he was taking it is, I'm definitely a glass half full person because we've actually at the Democratic Party paid for 2 polls. I've also seen some other polls. Yeah, we talk about Charlie Baker's popularity. It's not anywhere near the level it is once he becomes a candidate. One of the reasons why people like him here in Massachusetts is because he didn't vote for Trump, he didn't endorse him in the primary, and they perceive that he is against Trump. Okay? But that's not the case. The fact of the matter is we need someone with a backbone in the corner office. We need someone with democratic values, someone who will point out that, we do believe in science, and that we do believe in people's rights, that we need to move forward when it comes to the environment, when it needs to come forward, move forward when it comes to investing in transportation and education and child care. And so once he becomes a candidate, and that's been this little tightrope that you've seen happen for the last 2 or 3 months. He's told everybody he's running, but he hasn't had the announcement. And the reason why he hasn't had the announcement is because as soon as you become a candidate, that's when you get a target at the back. Majority of the Democrats in this state have held town meetings in the last year. Elizabeth Warren's had 17. Maura Heal has had more than a couple dozen. And our congressional offices have had 2 or 3 or 4. Charlie Baker has not had one town meeting. He has not put himself in front of voters to answer questions. And he doesn't want to do that because the questions are going to be uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable for me. I get them a little bit different. I remember it was a year ago now when people were asking me, how can we stop the inauguration from coming? The questions are closer now, more realistic, which is, how come he's not impeached? And those are not easy questions to answer. I'm very proud of the government that we have. I'm actually, praying that our Constitution holds true because I don't believe he's going to last his 4 years. The fact of the matter is I told my nieces and nephews almost about a year ago, a little bit, 13 months ago, that either he's going to end up in jail or I'm going to end up in jail. And the fact of the matter is I'm continuing to waver. There are sometimes I'm pretty worried that it might just be me. But believing that it's going to be him. I mean, this is a person who has perfected the art of the lie. And so that's where I am with our president. That's where I am with the corner office. Once he becomes a candidate, once people realize that we can have someone that's going to have a backbone, stick up, have a plan, his popularity will drop quickly by 12 to 15%, and then we'll begin to have a race. The other thing that you see when you go into these focus groups and you ask people about our governor, you ask them, what has he done? Talk to us about something that he's done. I mean, use your own focus groups. They can't point to anything. It's crickets. They can't point to what he has been successful at, okay? And so anyways, it's glass half full. We are going to have a significantly, aggressive plan in place. We'll work with the committees as we move forward with that. We've identified over 500,000 Democrats in the state that don't vote in gubernatorial years but have voted in the last 2 presidential election years. Those are people we would like each one of the town and city committees to engage with 3 times between now and Labor Day. And the idea behind that is the reason why they don't vote in a gubernatorial year is because they don't believe that their vote makes a difference at the state level. But if we focus on it, it's about 112 people per precinct. If we focus on them and make them understand that this will make a difference. And we also have the early vote to make sure that we have it's easier to kind of equate the work that we do on the ground to get them out to vote. Because they have voted before, that's always the toughest thing. To get someone to vote the first time in politics is always the toughest. Once they voted, they don't have that fear. So we just need to let them know the ease of early voting, when they can vote early, when they can vote absentee. So we have that plan in place. We're going to be working with each one of the committees as we move forward. We believe as a Democratic Party that's something that we can successfully do and not get ourselves kind of intertwined in the Democratic primaries, because I have been very active in Democratic primaries over the year. And, and I also was the executive director of the state party for the 90s. And that's one of those fine lines that we have to be careful about. We don't want to have anyone perceive that we're getting, being active in the primaries in a way that would help one of the candidates. But we need to put something in place for Elizabeth Warren, for the Democrats that don't have opponents, so that the day after the primary, there is a coordinated campaign in place for the gubernatorial elections. So we're very active. We're moving it forward. But I want to open it up because it's wide-ranging. You've heard, from one of our Democratic candidates for lieutenant governor. I think he's put out some great platforms out there. What are some of the questions I can answer for you?
Gus, I'm glad to see you.
Sure.
I would like to see 10 bullets that I could say to someone, and they'll say the same thing to someone, and they'll say the same thing to someone else.
Sure.
Before the caucus. Because we're reaching out to people now. I'm in Ward 3. And we're reaching out to people, we're sending flyers out to them.
Take the first page of the platform. It's amazing.
I need something that's real, Gus, something that...
Oh, that's real. The first page of the platform is amazing. It's an amazing document.
I looked at that first page, and I'm looking for bullets that are exciting, Gus.
They're actually pretty exciting.
That all of us can have the same speech.
Well, people talk about this all the time.
They can go back to it
So
later.
here's the thing. People talk about this all the time. What's the Democratic message? Okay, what was the Republican message in the last presidential election?
That's why I'm a
Build a
Democrat.
No, what was it?
They were gonna build a wall in Mexico.
No, that was
Yeah,
Trump's
no, that's
message.
Trump.
That wasn't the Republican message. The message of the party often is the candidate at the top of the ticket, okay? And frankly, if you really want to water it down, it's we believe as Democrats that together we can do better. Okay, Republicans believe that less intrusion, less government is better for everyone. Okay, that's the line. Okay, and so we are better than them. If you look at what we talk about, when you look at where healthcare came from, it came from Massachusetts. When you look at basically where many of our civil rights, where many of our civil liberties have come from, just as Quentin talked about, came from here in Massachusetts. So we look at those things and we deal with them at a different level. Depending on where you are in the state, the issues differ significantly.
Exactly, but they have an argument for that, Gus.
What argument? What are you talking about?
When you were referencing healthcare,
Sure.
there's a whole argument for that. I'm looking for bullets that I can stick to and they can refer back to the more details.
I don't mean to disappoint you, and I'm not trying to disappoint you, because I I was involved in the writing of the 1994 platform, so in 1993.
See, folks get uncomfortable with me because I'm trying to be candid, because I'm out in the street talking to people.
But so am I.
I'm trying to generate interest, and
Yeah.
I'm getting, what I'm asking you is what I'm getting from them. Yeah, you just said go read the manual. You know, go look at the- You know what I mean?
But you,
So-
Don't you have a feel for
No,
why?
yeah,
you're
put
in
yourself
the-
in the situation.
My point is that we need to come together with something clearer. That's my point.
I want you to put it together. This is under your.
I agree with you.
skin.
I actually, we did this at a.
I'm talking to the leadership
I was
here.
up.
I know.
Alicia.
No, no,
And I
well,
told him
no,
he
I
was
agree
gonna
with
get
you.
this
No,
question.
but this is, by the way, this question comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And so
I
I
wonder why.
no, but well, I throw it back to you.
Okay.
Because the fact of the matter is you answer it one way, and someone on the other side of the table is
Right.
gonna answer it a different way.
And we need to come together with one that's consistent so that
We,
we're
no,
all
but
together.
we will.
Yeah, it's-
And you
it's a
will get that
diverse
message when we
party.
nominate the Democratic nominee on September, and right after Labor Day. Okay, that will be the message for our governor's race, which will be different than the message that wins us back the House and wins us back the Senate at a national level, because all of those issues differ in the geography that you work in. The fact of the matter is we believe that a rising tide lifts all boats, okay? And you need to take that message and you need to apply it to the room that you're in, the audience that you have, and put it into words that make sense for them. Because it'll be very different in Pittsfield than it will be in New Bedford, that it will be in Westford, that it will be in Rehoboth. They're very different
That's the
issues.
problem, right?
Yeah.
And so if you just believe that we are better when we all work together, that's the value of the Democratic Party. We do need to work together. That's why we created the United States of America. Okay, we do need these safeties. And they're not, and one last thing, they're not regulations, they're protections. Because that's one of the things that people forget about.
About
Oh, well,
bullets,
you know,
yeah.
the government, all it does, no, we put in protections. It's safe to work in a workplace because of the Democratic Party.
That's important.
And build that out.
That's very
Sorry,
important.
go ahead.
I wanted to talk to you about the state support for Democrats who are interested in running for office.
Sure.
I looked at the Republican webpage, and one of the easy buttons they have is, are you interested in running for office?
That's right.
And they take your information, and they support the candidates. At
That's
the local,
who we-
at the local elections here,
Yeah.
all of the Republicans running for local office had their mailings come from the state Republican
And if
committee.
you looked at the last special elections, they all came from the Mass Democratic Party. So one of the most interesting things.
My point
I-
was
but-
that I think the state Democratic Party should have a similar feature on their webpage, that if you're interested in running for office, contact us.
Well, frankly, it's there. There's a contact us button and we do it. So so for those that don't know, it was just about 14 months ago that I got elected chair, and I got elected chair here in Quincy. And,
Go up to us.
and thank you, by the way, for having me. But the reason why I bring that up, because I have said this a number of different times to people. The second question I was asked by a reporter at Quincy High School when I was elected was, are you worried about your bench? And I was thinking to myself, that's the last thing actually that I'm worried, and it's only because I've been in Democratic Party politics, and the majority of work that I've done as polling and targeting has been in Democratic primaries. We rarely face a primary where we don't have primary opponents. There would be some people that say that's our Achilles heel because our primaries last until September, and then we actually have to patch up the wounds. And the Republicans that have only had either one candidate or when we run it against an incumbent, they don't have a primary. Look what's happening in the 3rd Congressional District. We're up to 13 candidates. So we are spending
And
time.
how many on the other side, Gus?
Right now, there's one or
One.
two. Yeah, there's one announced, but there will
Well,
likely be another
one
one.
withdrew, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had two and now there's one.
Well, there's going to be another, you're
there
right,
another
there's
one?
likely to be another one. I live in the 3rd Congressional District, so.
Are you
that is happening.
understanding his point? And the reason that the Republican Party has to do that is they have to go out and he's
So we've got a
13
special election coming up in
candidates.
Lynn. They're not even fielding a candidate for state senate.
Right. He's walking into that office. as
We
state
always
rep.
face Democratic primaries. sorry.
So you brought up the bench, and I think that's great that
Yeah.
you're not concerned about the bench running for office.
Well, no, I just, it was weird that was the first question, because we actually have, I personally think, but we should talk about it, you have some incredible candidates here, we have a strong bench in this state. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I wanted to pivot a little bit. It's
Yeah.
about the bench, not
Yeah.
just being, for those who are running for elected office at our city and towns and in our legislature, but on our committees.
Sure.
I work for an organization called New Leaders Council. We actually met last February in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I've had a heck of a time getting a hold of your executive director. I'm just being honest. Not a single returned email. Trying to work with them on.
Email me, I'm shocked at that, she's amazing.
I'm happy to.
I'm
But that's-
wondering if you're
I don't
using the
wanna-
wrong email
I don't wanna
address.
use-
That's all I question.
I don't want to air dirty laundry on it. I'm just saying that.
Well, no,
I've had a
I'm
heck
just,
of a
I mean,
time.
quite frankly, very
Right.
few people complain about Veronica, so I'm just, so,
Okay.
yeah.
But what our organization does is we develop leaders, and they're not necessarily running for office.
Sure.
Some of you guys might not want to hear this, but millennials are a third of the voting bloc right now.
Right.
The largest voting bloc in history.
Right.
We're 100% of the future.
I agree.
What is and Alicia can attest to this, we're having a hell of a time in my ward, even just having elections and making room for those who maybe don't look like us, or making room for new people to come in and be part of the process. And I think that that's been incredibly detrimental, not only on the local level, but also on the national level, of this disenfranchisement of millennials feeling like, well, both parties are kind of the same. They won't let us in. They won't let us be part of it. They don't want to hear our voices. We don't have the
Terrific.
experience. Let me finish though.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear our voices, and so we have situations like the 2016 election where people voted for Jill Stein. I still admonish them on that. I still want to slap their wrist on it, like, why would you ever waste your vote there? But it's a systematic problem of creating space for those who are new, who are coming up, and it's not something that we developed a plan for.
Well,
It's something
so
that we've
that's
seen a
why I want to,
strategy for.
we do need to talk, because that's not the case. So, and some of this is
That
because.
is the case, she just
No, no.
shared that with you.
Well, no, let me push back a little bit.
Yeah, but
We
don't say
said
something
it-
that isn't that I hear, and then you
Okay,
say
well, let
it's
me-
not
but
the
let me-
case.
Let him
But-
tell you what he's doing.
Here's the
All
point.
right, well,
There are
I-
100 seats
okay.
that we set aside every year for the convention for delegates, okay, that just go to the youth. And then the other thing that we set aside, so again, so I'm looking at, but I'm also saying that there are a bunch of millennials out there. Any delegate slot that's not filled goes into the youth pool. So the fact of the matter is, the minimum is 100. I've never known it only to be 100. It's normally about 250 to 350 slots that go to delegates.
Okay, I have some questions.
Yeah.
You can talk to me about it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that,
Yeah.
and that's great. And I run a national organization, and I have problems all the time with things getting past my chapter leadership and out to the general public,
Sure.
and needing to do messaging. And what I'm saying is I've gone to the caucus here in Quincy, and this is not a bash at anybody here, and have talked to folks like Deb and Carrie and tried to get in and try to be part of the convention. And if it's not getting past our ward leadership, or our ward leadership does not want to create that space, then in Quincy, at least in my ward, that was a problem. And
Sounds
so
like a problem,
it
yeah.
has to get past, it's great that there's this plan, but what is the plan to implement it?
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you know that you could have applied for a youth add-on
Yes.
seat? Did you apply for youth add-on seat?
It was too late. By the time I tracked down enough people in the Democratic Party to find out how the heck I could do this, it was past.
Well, that's why I'm
Were
here
you
now.
at the caucus?
But that's why.
This year, I'm talking about the year before.
I
Okay.
nominated her.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, well, that's
I appreciate
terrific, because that's exactly, but this is, by the way, there are a number of different things that we have. So what I didn't talk about is, so I was on the Young Democrats, 30 years ago, and we had similar problems then. And through the years, this party, not necessarily because of my leadership, because of the leadership, we have done things that have tried to fix that situation. The first thing that was done prior to my time was adopting the 20-year membership rule at the state party level.
Yep.
And the idea behind that was, once a member was a state committee member for 20 years, they become an automatic member, which then opens up a seat so someone can get elected.
Try that
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, we can't even get that done here.
No, but then what happened in the mid-90s, we added that rule to the town committees. Okay, so that there is a 20-year rule amongst the town and ward committee membership. So there are plans in place to try to adopt, to try to deal with that, so that there, is a way for the youth to get involved. I think that, and again, one of the other things that I have definitely learned is trying to get that information out, which is why, one, I'm here tonight, but why I've been to many towns and wards across the state to learn about people not hearing about this.
Right.
Um,
I guess my only final thing, and I hate
Sure.
to drop a bomb and walk out because I have to go run a conference call in 20 minutes.
Sounds like
Okay.
you're doing just that.
But I don't want to drop a bomb and then walk out. But I just to help people around the language, millennials are 30. They're 35. They have children. They have homes. They have student loans. They have mortgages. Let's stop calling them youth when they've hit that point in their life. And so when I hear youth delegate, I think somebody under 25.
Well, it's defined as under 35.
I know.
The one thing I want you to, before you leave, because you just dropped the bomb,
Yeah.
I want you to know we're having a Millennial Summit in March. Okay, it's being chaired by Michelle Wu, Joe Kennedy,
Great.
and a couple other people. So just make sure you know and hear about it, just for this very reason, because I do hear about this. And there are two number of things: working with the young Democrats, working with high school Democrats, working with the young elected officials. The idea behind this Millennial Summit is to develop these events, because what's wonderful is you're here tonight. But there are a number of millennials that I do talk to who, because they're professionals, because they have young families, they tell me, I can't make the ward committee meetings or the town committee meetings all the time, but I still want to be involved. So the idea is to create a social network for them so that they can be hanging out. Yeah?
Are you Gus at Mass Downs?
I am.
Okay, I will follow up with you.
Perfect. Excellent.
Just to your point, all right?
Yeah.
In the state of Massachusetts, okay, by law, elderly is 62. I don't like that
You're not elderly to me.
Well, we are gonna live with these.
I'm going to shorten my answers because there's a lot of hands. We'll go
Yeah.
here.
I had a question earlier regarding the Clinton versus Sanders tension, and it actually spilling over to the 2018 election.
It is.
And
It's going
what-
to affect our governor's race. You hit it
So
on the
what's-
head. It's going to be a huge issue.
Let our guest speaker address this.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna take the Quinn profit. I don't believe it will. I actually, I'm not avoiding it. I literally am going out to all the meetings, anyone that'll invite me. And I believe that there is a bridge. I think the bridge is happening. I mean, and frankly, if we're talking specifically about these two organizations, the leaders of our revolution, they're actually, some of their meetings are in our office, and I've been participating on their conference calls.
And that's scary.
We're working very strongly to make sure that all the
Well,
groups
if it's
come
supporting
together.
somebody other than
So what I would like to know more about is where there is friction, and get me involved in it, because I'd like to stop it, because what I do know, not from this past election, but what I know from a governor's race in 1990, and a governor's race in 1998, and a governor's race in 2012, if we don't come together after the primary, we don't win. And so we need to deal with these issues early on. So help me find, where are you hearing about this friction, and with what organizations, and have them, invite the chair of the party out to try to bring people together.
Well, they're not always necessarily at a particular venue. It's just talking to people. We heard most of it right after the primary, and then going into after the election. And so you're still hearing a little bit of it. I know my messaging included talking about the ways in which the Clinton and the Sanders people were the same in terms of the platform,
Right.
and de-emphasize whether they were different, because there really wasn't very much different. And I was able to pull, many of the millennials who had voted for Sanders and were still stuck in terms of voting for Hillary. In addition to talking about where they were similar, I also began to talk about this whole concept of establishing a regime in this country. When 32 of the Republicans are, governor seats are Republicans, you have control over all the systems in any government systems, and the potential significance and the impact of that, from the Supreme Court to the Congress to the House, And then there were a lot of federal judge appointments that had not been made under the Obama administration. And as a result of that, we have now put ourselves in the middle of a regime. That was able to sort of move people a little bit. They began thinking about, oh, wait, we
They
don't
feel
want
ignored.
one party having control of all of the systems and the significance and the impact and what they could do even constitutionally,
Right.
as well as
Yep.
our platform moving forward.
Absolutely right.
I
Okay, we're
was
gonna
able
wrap
to-
this up
Yeah,
because
I
we
am.
can, hurry
So
up, Tracy.
Yeah, I am, and so that was
Yeah.
one of the ways I was able to move
Yeah,
people.
yeah, we
That's
want
perfect.
questions here, no more commentary.
Right there, go next.
Questions.
I
And
wanted-
after Frank, Ian's been patiently waiting back
Okay, why don't you
there.
call the hands? and then we'll
Yeah,
go from
I
there.
will.
I don't have.
Frank, oh, you raised your hand earlier.
No, Frank can go, and then I'll come.
Yes, go ahead,
I just
Frank.
wanted to validate what was her name?
Tracy.
Tracy.
Courtney.
yeah.
Courtney was saying as legitimate.
Sure.
I mean,
Very
and I
legitimate.
want to point out also that 85% of the millennial vote, if I'm recalling correctly, went to the losing candidate in the presidential primary.
That's not correct, but that's fine.
Well, I'm not sure what it is by state or by country, but 85%
That's
rings a
not
bell.
correct.
as,
no. Yeah, it's not
And
correct.
I'm
the
not
young
sure how
one's
much
shaking
that
their
has
There are
to do
more
with-
people that are gonna back up what I'm going, but
I'm
that's
not
not
so
correct.
much sure of like whether that has
Just
to
deal
do
with
with being
facts.
millennials or being in that camp, because as a,
Okay,
personally being in that camp on the losing side, we've very much felt, I want to acknowledge what Tracy is saying,
Yeah.
is that there is some division. I see it lessening, and I'll say why, but I mean, our wing of the party has very much felt like the redheaded stepchild in the party in terms of disrespected and considering the horrible losses, 1,000 seats over the last 10 years, and loss in the White House.
okay.
To what?
I asked not too much commentary. And I do apologize. I know we're gonna run late here. This is very important. You've got Gus Bickford here. Take advantage of it. So ask him a direct question and he'll answer it directly.
One sentence
No more-
remaining.
Hurry up.
I see it getting better as the candidates and the campaigns begin. The gubernatorial campaigns are forcing both camps to play nice with each other. I've had to dial back the rhetoric in my online group and, because I'm
Good.
playing with,
Good.
you know.
If
and,
they're smart, they do. You're gonna cut off your nose to spite your
And the
face. You
same
might,
with
you
the,
better come together.
Well, we are
It's a
smart,
big
that's why
tent.
we're Democrats.
That's right. Okay, Ian, and then you, Melissa. Go ahead, Ian.
So I want to ask a question in regards to broadening the bench. We
Sure.
talked about this a little bit earlier, and when you were talking about, the president, he's not the president we all want here in this room, and the governor is the race that we're going to be focusing on. But I think we're missing a mark here, because right now we have a resurgence that's happening. I've been with Alicia since I got elected to the school committee 12 years ago.
She just was inaugurated
No,
last
yeah,
night,
yeah,
or
yeah.
sworn
Inaugurated
in.
last night as councilor.
Ann
at large.
Mahoney.
Yeah.
And when I first came on, and I also ran for mayor here in the city committee, let me tell you, I looked for help twice. I looked for help because this is not a Democratic mayor that we have working with us right now.
He's not a Democrat, he's on a roll.
No, he's
That's
not, but
correct.
he was
Yeah.
a fake Democrat for a long time,
Right.
and we accepted him for a long
Well,
time.
he-
I'm just gonna call it like it is. So here's the thing though, when I reached out to the state level, and I like to think I'm part of your bench.
Sure.
No, I wasn't,
Great.
because I'm a local level person, and they don't want anything to do with local level people. So, raising, nope, you can.
No, I'm not, no, I'm,
Yeah.
I can't answer to anybody prior to me, I can't.
But you gotta know this.
I
Yes, for
supported, when I
Yes.
got into school committee, I supported develop Patrick,
Sure.
I got develop Patrick elected. I worked very hard at the
Yeah.
state side of things. I have worked very hard in the state, and when it came to the turnaround to be able to broaden that bench,
Right.
and to really, to bring somebody to the table that's gonna be able to see the
Yeah.
issues that we have here in Quincy and to unify our city,
Yeah.
I didn't receive much back from the state. And I'm not saying, but what I'm asking this for is because we just had another local election where we had a Democrat that ran against the GOP head here in the city, and he got no support. He lost the election by about 150 votes.
Right,
He had $800.
yeah.
She had the support of the governor and the lieutenant governor here in the state of Massachusetts, from the state of Massachusetts.
You
The
know,
reason why
when
I bring this up,
Yeah.
is because we have a large group, and we want to build a Democratic base, and we want to win back the state of Massachusetts so that we can have a Democratic governor. But we really need to build it from the bottom, because I truly believe how we lost the election to Donald Trump was because we forgot about the people.
Yeah.
The people that sit here, not just the people who are in the poverty level, which is
The
something
working
we have to be
class.
absolutely concerned about, but the average worker We're never, none of us
I
are gonna be.
completely agree with you.
So what
Absolutely.
we need to do is. and
Abandoned.
Much like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when we were
Absolutely.
just
They win the
talking about
primary, they can't win the
We
elections.
need to really build it, and I understand where John's coming from, because he's looking for that 10 point, he's been saying it for as long as I know him, he's been looking for the cheat sheet. There is no cheat sheet, I agree that, because every community you go to is gonna be different, but we really do need to have a common conversation, so that we
Mission.
can start building that, because if we don't,
Statement.
those elections that we think that we can win,
Right.
we lose just because we haven't had that common thread. But we also have to support and broaden that base.
Yeah.
Because I like to say to people all the time, I have a lot of energy and I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep going for as
Yeah.
long as I possibly can. But at some point, I'm gonna get tired, and I wanna make sure that that
Right.
baton that we pass is passing to somebody who's gonna be strong and stand up for me.
That's right.
So that I can be sitting right next to Mr. Noble, you know,
Yeah.
my boyfriend, Alicia. Because honestly,
This is my dad.
we all believe in the same thing, or we
Yeah.
wouldn't be here spending
Sure.
our evening, as much as we love to
Right.
meet you and hear from you. But we want to broaden it and grow. And now, you know, years ago, Alicia, we used to have these meetings in people's kitchens, because there was just a
Right.
small group of us.
Right.
And now to see it growing, we want to grow it even more. But we need to make sure that we're not just growing it alone here in Quincy, that we're growing it community-wide, so that we, when we need to, we can pull ourselves together. And some people, this is a trick, and I think it's hard to get people to
I'm gonna
recognize.
have to have you wrap it up too,
I
Ms.
will, but this is my
Mahoney.
last point. Some people don't understand why it's so important to be registered as a Democrat,
Mhm.
and because the state of Massachusetts doesn't count. This is what they think. The state of Massachusetts doesn't count when it comes to electing the president, because, you know, our delegations are but it's more than that. It's more than that. It's the conversations that we need to broaden. So I just want to say that because we need to broaden the base, and we need to be more open to the conversations, and really come together, not just only in Quincy, but throughout the whole state, to be able to do that together. So when we have to, we can ring that bell, and we can all work together.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but I do want to point something out regarding the Mike Curley issue, and with this close. First of all, there has to be some reach out from him.
And he reached out to the state, though, I know that for a fact.
Well, all right, now, and I'm not trying to defend, I want to make a point here, because my dream, and I see it beginning to foster and grow here, is like any ward boss back in the day, when someone decided to run, I could pick up the phone, I could call my ward chairs and say, you know what? We need all of us helping this guy out because he can beat the GOP guy. I don't have that in this committee right now. It's growing. I have a 200 contingent, membership. The majority that are going to ever do anything is sitting here tonight. I'd love to be able to pick up that phone and make those phone calls the way campaigns can, and you become a force within the city with the electeds and your candidates coming to you. Mike came to, the only thing I could offer Mike, we're going to endorse you, Mike. We endorsed you on our social media site, and we ran a half-page ad in our Quincy Sun endorsing all of our Democratic candidates. I wished I could have picked up the phone and said to the Ward 5 chair and the Ward 1 chair, can you start to call people on behalf of Mike Hurley? I don't have those numbers yet. I hope we get there. But to your point of growing from the bottom, understand in this room, that was a missed opportunity that hope on the city level, we can begin to formulate.
My question
It's
is,
not
the
there right
chair,
now.
is who's Mike Hurley?
Yeah,
I have no idea who he was.
well, that's why I said I started off,
No
I
idea.
sounded defensive. You have to reach out as the candidate to let people know you're running too, all right? Now, Ann did,
No
and
idea.
she didn't get a whole lot of response, and, from the state party, and that was disappointing.
I know
But-
Mike may not, I know Mike for fact had meetings at the state level, so I do.
But I'm talking even on the city level.
No, I know Alicia.
But anyway, Melissa, my point of that whole commentary right there is we're beginning to build and grow, and we have to continue to do it to help people like them. So as a committee, we can be a force that can get people elected. We really don't have a lot of political oomph right now to get that done for somebody in this city. I want to get to that point.
Alicia, again, this is not meant to, it's about building the bench. This was really,
Yeah.
it was an example to be used for.
Oh, I know you weren't directing it at, but you talked about building it from the ground level. here we are,
Yep.
and this is how you do it. And we need to be able to, pick up that phone, and so we need people holding a sign
So
down
there
on
didn't
C
seem to be a
Street.
question, but I do want to talk because it makes it seem like we're not trying to build a bench. I mean,
No, no,
we are trying to build a bench. I mean, frankly, through our state committee members, our city chairs, our ward chairs, when there's enough group, like yell saying, hey, you got to get in here, that's when we can get the support. And remember, the Democratic Party is all of us, And so that's when we get the support in. I started really getting the focus on municipal elections last spring, and then doing the same thing this fall. We, at a mayoral level, which is just a little bit higher, so there's a little bit more, it's easier for us to focus. We didn't lose a Democratic race, for Democratic incumbents, and we knocked off 2 Republicans. And so we did our best that we could for those places we could focus. We then also focused on there were some city council races where, the cities came together and said, you've got to come in here and, however it is, group. And so I tried to group some people together so we could get enough money to do mailing on behalf of those people. So we have done and did do our best in those areas. There are issues that we ran into, so just because you'll hear from some places, well, when it's a Democrat running against a Democrat, we got to stay away from it. Now, this is, I know, in this place, but there are some people don't understand that. They're like, wait a second, but that's, the good candidate's like, yeah, but it's a nonpartisan race, and they're both for the Democratic Party, so we can't do that. One of the things we are trying to do in this cycle, real quickly, is we are trying to focus on all of the seats where Republicans are holding a state rep or state senate office and get a candidate against it. Because one of the things that I do know next fall is if we can keep the momentum going, we're going to have the energy on our side. There's not going to be a lot of energy on the Republican side. That could be the difference maker. That could be the 250,000 votes we need to basically take back the corner office. And I'm not just focused on the corner office, because quite clearly there are races in the towns this spring and some of the special elections coming up that we need to take. And we are trying to focus on doing that.
I guess my question was really kind of based off of what Ted was, what my inspiration was, because he started with the showing you the Republican Party. They have a button to press when you can get in touch.
Right.
It's not as easy when you're a candidate and you're not, and you've never been a candidate before. There's no manual to be a candidate.
I'm writing one.
There you go. So there is, I appreciate that, but there really isn't. I mean, it's not a simple task to take, and you don't know who to reach out to. So, when your basis is that, I've been a lifelong Democrat, and